just kind of go for it. So we're gonna talk about some of the stuff you need to bring to your first drift event. This hammer is a very important one. Let's get into it. All right, so I got JMO with me. So we're gonna kind of show you guys everything you'll need. Let's look at the tools.
Okay, so this is kind of a pretty basic mechanic set of tools. We've got something in every size and kind of shape here. So starting, let's kind of make our way this way. A couple of pry bars. Those are always good. Stuff gets bent. So those are good. A little assortment of pliers here. Definitely some vice grips of different shapes. You're gonna wanna make sure you've got yourself a nice wrench set, okay?
Standard or metric?
It depends on what your car is. Make sure you know your car. If you're, an out of US car, it's probably gonna be metric. And now all of the new cars that are basically American cars are all metric as well. So if you're running something old and American, you're gonna want standard, but pretty much everything else is gonna be metric. You're gonna definitely want a nice set of screwdrivers, some picks, some mini screwdrivers.
You really need this?
That's a number 3. You never know when something's a number 3. It's very rare, same as number 1. Number 2 screwdriver is gonna be your go-to.
This, I wanna point one out. Cutoff wheel, I feel like a lot of people don't bring that there. That's huge,
yes.
Especially for starting. Because let's just say this is your first drift event, and maybe you just put on like knuckles and a lower control arm. Until you really drive it, you're not going to know what needs to be clearanced, if anything at all. And I've seen guys go to the track, no cutoff wheel, they got nothing, they have nothing to, cut their fender if they need to, cut the inside. That's also why a hammer is so important, and not just a rubber mallet, but something that just pounds. If you need to pound that inner seam weld in, on the fender well, like I don't know, cutoff wheel I just feel like is huge and
super
overlooked.
Important. And the great thing about these is you can swap out the cutoff wheel for like a sanding disc or some other stuff if you need to do some more delicate trimming. So as well as a drill and some sort of impact. If you don't have an impact, that's fine. You can get yourself a nice big 1/2-inch ratchet. Earthquake, Harbor Freight. They're like $150.
This is big.
Yeah.
I feel like this is also overlooked.
Yeah, the flashlight. A lot of events kind of go into the evening or the night. Or you're just underneath your car and you can't see nothing.
This is critical.
Yes.
Gloves that aren't your driving gloves. We're gonna go over like what you should bring for yourself, but gloves that aren't your driving gloves, these are gonna get ruined, and you want something that protects your hands, especially when you come back in, stuff's hot. Even your wheels are hot.
On this side, we've got, basically, this is a little excessive probably for the average person, but a whole 1/4-inch set, ratchet, sockets, extensions, 3/8-inch set with sockets and extensions, and then a 1/2-inch set.
If you had to choose though, like 1/4, 3/8, or 1/2, and then as well as like long or short and extensions, like kind of break down what like you really need, because again, this is ideal situation, but if you just have like barely anything, like you got.
So the most, yeah, absolutely, and the most versatile set is going to be your 3/8 set. You can really crank on these things and get bigger stuff off. They make them so small that you can get some of those smaller bolts out as well. I would definitely try and get at least, like a 3-inch and a 6-inch extension.
Yeah, and you can stack those too, which is cool.
And you can stack them, and you can make your 9-inch.
Yeah.
And then just a standard size. I mean, this is, it's kind of a black chrome, but.
That is pretty fancy.
It's a Craftsman. I love Craftsman. I'm a big fan of Craftsman.
While we're going through, so if you guys have any questions on like, do I need this, do I need that, and we haven't gone over it, comment below. JMO and I are always responding to comments, and we'll help you guys out. Oh my gosh, JMO, did you mention this?
Not yet, no.
Absolutely critical, guys. We zip tie stuff all the time. Zip ties, super critical, and even beyond that, some zip tie dedicated cutters. These are like the flat flush cuts. Never use them on anything but zip ties.
All right, so we all know that these things can turn into nightmare daggers that rip a hole all the way up your arm. But these flush cuts, they make those things smooth. It's definitely a must-have. All right, and I think we only have a couple more things here. Allen wrenches. Get yourself a nice set of Allen wrenches. and make sure they're either standard or metric based on your vehicle. And then just a few things that is probably not necessary, but we like to bring. Definitely like to have some sort of measuring device. It gets a little loud at the track sometimes. And then a multimeter. This is probably not necessary for everybody, but anybody that's got any wonky wiring, which is kind of a thing that happens with drift cars, just don't do this.
What do you think?
I got one more thing, and this is my biggest pet peeve, and I see this all day long at the track. People either have an impact and they're just ramming their lug nuts on, or they got their arm in a 1/2-inch socket, just putting all their weight on it. You guys, get a torque wrench. This one is a little bit more pricey, okay? It's all digital, but get a click torque wrench. I don't care where it comes from. It's closer than, you know, not having one. The last thing you want to do is put those lug nuts on so tight that your studs just snap and your wheel flies off while you're drifting. Or they're too loose and your wheel flies off while you're drifting, so.
So before we get into spare parts and stuff, let's talk about you. You yourself, you are gonna need a couple things. Good driving shoes. You guys are probably laughing, but honestly, still to this day, I have nice racing shoes, like the custom made that I wear for competing. I still end up wearing Vans or something like that every time we're drifting. I really like these really kind of slim ones. I don't know, they have a good flat bottom. I mean, honestly, any kind of skate shoe usually tends to work well. Converses also are great. Gloves. Again, different gloves than what you work on the car with. These got a little dirty because sometimes you're wheeling a tire around, but driving gloves, a lot of you guys won't use them to start. I just think they're huge. And then a helmet. And yes, before you ask, you can use DOT approved helmets, but this is like, you're saving your brain. So get SFI, FIA, the rated 4 racing ones. They're made for that kind of impact. It's better than DOT.
And how much did that helmet cost?
This helmet we got as a ride-along helmet, just as like a spare, and I like making people wear pink because it's funny. But I believe this was like under 200 bucks.
I think it was like 160 bucks for those race quip. For those race quip helmets are about between 150 and 200 bucks.
That's nothing to save your brain, you guys.
Absolutely.
It's huge. Helmet, gloves, shoes, and pants. Pants is the other thing. I have pants on. They will absolutely not let you in the car if you're in shorts, even for ride-alongs. So make sure you just wear pants to the track and get in the habit of it. Yeah. Let's look at parts real quick. So depending on your car, these parts are gonna look a little bit different, but having like a spare coilover is so huge, and I think another so overlooked one. I never brought spare coilovers with me, and my day would just end if I hit a rumble strip really hard and snapped a coilover, or even bumped the wall. There's a lot of stuff you can bend and fix out, but the coilovers just get trashed. They're not really made for impact. If you can afford it, having a good spare coilovers with you would be really nice. As well as axles. Cool thing about axles is, depending on what car you're using, look into it. A lot of times AutoZone will have them, so maybe you don't have to go buy them right away, and AutoZone's around the corner, you can go grab it. Tie rods, massive. Something to think about.
It's so easy to bend.
So easy to bend, and something to think about, if you have an angle kit and they've been extended or anything, or they're like a weird, different one that they supplied, you need to get that one. This is like a whole rear hub setup and bearing and all that with the studs. But really, this solves like 3 or 4 different issues, and just having it all put together is ideal. Lug nuts. My God, you guys, I feel like all these are so huge, but all the time we'll get asked for random lug nuts, and it's just get a couple extra lug nuts and have them with you. And then, oh my gosh, well, this is sitting here, a fire extinguisher, besides the one that you have in your car. So right here is where I knew I was completely but then having a nice bigger one outside your car is great too. The fire extinguisher in all reality should be sitting out in the pit, ready to be grabbed. Tire gauge. If you're not gonna bring a tire gauge to your first day, don't even go. So a couple of things that we've got here. Some people might drive their car that they're gonna be drifting to the track. So make sure you're showing up with a full tank. Not only helps balance the weight of the car, but you're probably not gonna have to fill up at all during the day. But in the case that you're running some sort of different fuel, or you wanna be safe about it,
you know, get yourself 1 to 3 of these guys. They're not too expensive, and make sure you bring enough fuel so that you don't have to leave the track to drive to the gas station. Always bring a drain pan to the track for whatever reason. It's probably not necessary for most people, as well as like a pump and a funnel, you know, and we've got a little hose attachment on there. But these are basically for if for any reason you have to drain your transmission or drain your differential and you need to get fluid back in there, then these are gonna be like a lifesaver. Some of these are pretty obvious. These are things that you're definitely gonna wanna have. First off, some cleaners. Okay, so we've got, you know, some window cleaner. We got some detailer. You know you want that car looking fresh. We got some brake cleaner. This is gonna help if for any reason you get a leak, brake fluid gets everywhere, whatever. That's gonna clean that right up. Some WD-40. Never know when you're gonna need that. Always have a bottle of brake fluid. Power steering fluid. Wanna bring some distilled water. If it's your daily driver and you're still running coolant in it and everything, swap that out. If you're gonna be tracking your car, it's a big no-no to have coolant or antifreeze on the track. If for any reason it leaks out, it's super slippery and it's just dangerous. It's also a track rule at every track I've ever been to, so don't be that guy. So the only advantage to running antifreeze is that it is anti-freeze, okay?
Seems obvious, but you guys would be surprised. You don't need this crazy jack, but absolutely do not use the jack stands that you get with cars. My God, that is just so dangerous. I don't care what one you have, they're so sketchy. We use the Harbor Freight jacks, are honestly fine. And then jack stands, spend a little bit of extra money on jack stands. Get something that has no bad reviews. You can do a wheel change without putting a jack stand under it, but do not go under your car.
Oh my God.
If you ever see us at the track and I catch you underneath your car without a jack stand, I'm gonna come scream in your face.
Yeah, absolutely critical. I think that's it, honestly. If you guys have any questions, drop them below. But all of this, you could literally fit in a little bin, and some of the big objects put next to it in your car, or if you have a flatbed trailer, you can put it in the bed of your truck. This is really all you need. I'd say the only last thing, honestly, that we don't have here is spare wheels and tires. A lot of these cars are low powered, and you're gonna be busy enough and more than fine time-wise on that one set of tires. Ideally, you know, bring another set of mounted wheels and tires for the rear. And if you can afford it, one spare front would be really good, because anything can happen, and I've had that take me out. And it sucks. It's such a bummer to pop a front tire, which can just happen. We're racing. But honestly, that's it, guys. Again, if you have any questions, drop them below. Hope you'll hit that subscribe button. I hope this helped. A lot of you guys asked for it. And we'll see you guys in a couple days. Peace.